Hello and welcome to this week's We Are Careers show. We've got a absolutely bumper group of people here today. This is the busiest We Are Careers screen I think I've seen in a while. So very good to see everyone with us. Hopefully you're kind of tuning in from home, and if not, you're watching us on record, which is equally fantastic. So very warm welcome to everyone here today. This is the We Are Careers show. My name is Chris Webb, and I'm a higher education careers professional and RCDP with the CDI. And joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Meet Sabiha. Sabiha, are you having a good start to the week, or I guess middle of the week at this point?
Do you know what? I'm going to say it's one of those crazy weeks. And I don't know, whoever's watching right now, if you're watching live or either on the replay, let us know what kind of a week are you having. Mine has been absolutely bonkers. I think we've managed to, and I'm so happy that we're doing this show because we have managed to get 4 very, very busy career professionals in one space on a Wednesday lunchtime on the 23rd of May 2022. So I am just like excited and eager to sort of kind of jump into today's show. So what have we got coming up today? So as Chris mentioned, thank you, Chris. I'm known as Meet Sabiha, and I work internationally helping young professionals get unstuck and get back into career flow without the stress. And I'm also the creator of the I Am Thriving Career Coaching Program, where I teach international career coaches how to help their clients create even more powerful transformations without wasting resources or on time on tools that don't work. Now, I want to start off with the CDI Shoutout of the week. And so if you are hearing your name being shared, or if you hear a colleague's name being shared, please do pin them, get them to subscribe. If you aren't already following us, you now can watch us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and the Facebook community as well. So make sure that you're getting those daily reminders, or should I say weekly reminders of when the show is going live so that you never miss one. And so each week or each show, we like to celebrate those new members who are joining the career professionals as registered practitioners. So if you can sort of ping us in the group, if you're watching live right now, if there's any names that are feeling familiar, hearing familiar, let us know. And the reason why we like to celebrate the newest, RCDP members of the CDI communities is to give them a really warm welcome and to show them what the possibilities are within the career profession. So if you hear your name, pop into the chat and say hello, introduce yourself. What area of career information, advice and guidance are you working in? What type of groups are you helping and specializing working in? And if you don't hear your name and you're watching the show for the very first time, or maybe you're a regular, pop into the chat, let us know, introduce yourself as well. As always, hit that like button if you enjoy the shows and the awesome guests that we bring. Now, I am going to mention at this point, okay, I've got an extra special treat. If you are a CDI member, registered or otherwise, or your student membership, please do stay tuned right till the end, because I've got an extra bonus from the wonderful Lynn Burgess coming up for you. And so let's run through the list. Who will be celebrating this week? We have Miriam Jameson, Claire Hodgson, Joanne Howes, Joe Smith, Sarah Wilkins, Caroline Cox, Stefan Wager, Yvonne Green, and Kathy Bailiff. So welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you. And one other thing that I do want to say, if you are a CDI, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, if you are a registered CDI professional, whether your name was on that list and you've just recently joined, or perhaps you've been a member for a while, our beloved Lynn Burgess is sending out the CDI pin badges. So if you don't have yours and you're going, what CDI pin badge? Guess what? They are now available. Now, there is a bit of a backlog, so there is a form. It's going to be available in the resources document that we're going to be posting after the show. So do look out for that so that you can get your access. And I think, if I'm right, have we got one of our guests wearing them today? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay, so Carolyn, when it comes to you, and you can, so there you go. If you don't have one of those, definitely fill in this form. It literally takes, I think it's about 60 seconds, 2 minutes max. That's going to get you in there. Now, speaking of guests, we have got 2 of the top dogs here with us today. We have the CEO, Mr. David Morgan, and we have the president of the CDI, Carolyn Parry. So, Carol, I'm going to come to you first. Okay. So, people that don't know you, what do they need to know about you? Give us a brief bio into.
Okay, so brief, I'm into careers because I had a career crisis at the age of 39, got totally lost, having tracked down the wrong path. And if you want to hear my speech at inauguration, you'll hear a bit more about that from the AGM moment. But then I fell in love with careers. I found it, fell in love with it. And I think it's fair to say I'm a bit like a stick of rock. It says careers all the way through, as it does with everybody else on this screen, I think. So I now run my own business, having been working in HE for 15 years as a senior leader in careers latterly. But I run my own business now, I've been doing that for 6 years. That's called Career Alchemy, and that's around helping early careers and established professionals create purpose-led careers that they love. But more importantly for this conversation, I have the absolute privilege of looking after the CDI in two ways. One, I'm the project associate for Wales, which I've been doing since 2017. And then in 2020, the members very kindly elected me as their president-elect. So I've served on the board for a year. And now I am wearing my badge and I have to do the reverse camera trick. Have my badge on, it's polished. I know Chris's is polished as well. And I'm very proud to wear it and looking forward to hearing comments and questions from members as we go through today.
Fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing that. And as Carolyn said, if you do have questions, I don't know how often it is that you get access to the president and the CEO of the CDI. Very rare, I think. So I would say if you've got questions, they are available right now if you're watching the show live. But if you're watching the replay as well, pop them in the chat feed and we will make a point of getting back to you. So now heading over to the CEO, Mr. David Morgan.
Good afternoon.
What do people need to, hello, good afternoon. What do people need to know about you? If there's something that people should know, and you've done the show before already. You know, and so you know how this goes. So yes, what should the members know? And also viewers that are hearing about the CDI for the very first time.
Yeah, so I'm the Chief Executive. I joined in April last year, so about 10 months in. And on those pin badges, the registered professional pin badges are so special, I don't have one because I'm not a registered careers professional, so I'm not allowed to have one. I'm automatically a member as Chief Executive, but I'm not allowed to be registered. So if you're registered, get your pin badge. You know, you're better than me. So it's fantastic. And Lynn is getting them out. There is a bit of a backlog. You will get them. She's going to get them to everyone. So don't panic if you haven't had yours yet. But yeah, lovely to be here again.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, David. And speaking of which, I'm just looking at the chat feed. We've got a couple of people who are, okay, so speaking of the pin badges, we're definitely getting it. Have you got your pin badge? Are you jealous that some of us have them, some of us don't? I don't have mine yet, so don't panic, people. I've got one Facebook user say, I love wearing my pin badge when I'm out and about, smiley face. 4 top career people on screen for me, big smiley face. Fantastic to see the new RCDP. Welcome. So definitely we're getting the people tongues wagging. So Chris, what are we going to be talking about here today? Why have we got the president and the CEO of the CDI with us today?
Well, that's it. A great question, as you say. You know, to kind of get them together in one place at one time. It's proof that they are in fact different people as well. That, you know, some would say never seen in the same room at the same time, but now we know it's definitely not just one role. So Carolyn and David, thanks for joining us. And for those who are watching at home today, our big focus is about 100 years of careers. So the centenary of careers services. Upcoming celebrations, things that you may have read about already, but for those who haven't, it's about us really digging into that and going, you know, why is this going to be such an important thing for us to celebrate as a sector this year? And David, I'd really like to come to you first on this, if that's okay. You know, what's the purpose behind these celebrations? Can you tell us a bit more about 100 years of careers and, you know, why are we celebrating this?
Yeah, no, good question. Well, there's a lovely article in the last Career Matters magazine by Michelle Stewart that gave an overview of the last 100 years. It's 100 years of the first professional body for careers. So the first kind of record from Michelle's article of careers at all is in 1909 when the Board of Trade set up labour exchanges. But they were very, very limited. In 1922, and I'm going to have to read this because it's so long, no catchy titles in those days, was to set up the National Association of Juvenile Employment and Welfare Officers. And it was the first time there was a professional body that then became, or led on towards the Institute of Careers Officers and then the Institute of Career Guidance and ultimately the CDI plus others. So it's 100 years of a career development organisation, professional body. I think it's good to recognise that because this is a profession. It is well recognised. There's got a huge amount of rigour to it and has a massive impact for individuals and the economy and society. So we could have just had a bit of a conference or done a little bit of a paper about it. We decided it's particularly after the last couple of years, it's time to celebrate. So this year is about celebrating the profession, everything everyone does on a daily basis, and the impact it has overall.
That's great. Thanks, David. I think, that sort of recognition of the sector, as you said, is something that is a hot topic at the moment more generally. And I guess what better way to frame it than the centenary? We're going to come into a second onto the actual kind of plans, I suppose, and how that sort of all manifests. But Carolyn, I wonder if we could perhaps come to you first here. As the new president, and I guess, new is kind of relative because you've been in the president-elect role, for that year working with Dave Caudle. But how does this kind of sit with you, the 100 years of careers? How does it fit in, I guess, to your plans as the new CDI president?
I think it's how it fits into our plans. This is an institute-wide member organisation, isn't it? So it is about how it fits with our plans. It fits within the strategy, the new strategy that David rolled out with the video at the AGM, and there are various events happening for people to tune in to find out more about that. There's also the article in Career Matters. David and I have done one event. David's doing one with Nikki Lawrence, who's on the board for representing Wales, and then we've got Julianne from Scotland doing one as well. A chance to find out more, and those are recorded, so if you missed them live, you can pick up the recording afterwards. But to go back to your question, we matter, and we matter more this year than any other year, I think, given what's been going on with everyone. And so celebrating that centenary is massive, actually, because we're a young profession, and we have, I think it's fair to say, had some press that sort of says, careers advisor, they told me to go and be a plumber or whatever, and you're talking to a vice chancellor. We've all heard those sorts of stories. And actually, that's why centenary celebrations matter in some ways, because it changes that tune. But it fits very closely with the strategy. And as people who've seen us talk or read the articles about the strategy know that we have a really clear vision, purpose and mission that is published, that we hold ourselves accountable to. We have a strategic statement with the 4 pillars about broadening membership. Centenary activities help with that. Strengthening standards, that helps us promote what we do as well. Influencing change, and then working for a fairer future. And there's a lot of conversation, isn't there, around how we need to level up, to use that phrase. I'm not sure I like using that or not. It's a phrase that everybody's using, but actually it's about being fair and letting everybody have a fair chance with the talent they have. And it's particularly about the impact that we make, as David said, around sort of social, economic and well-being piece, that everybody has a better life as a result of good career guidance. And as part of the strategy, we've got 2 strategic enablers. That's around investing in services and then organising for growth. And all of that's underpinned by our values, which are around being professional and ethical, being inclusive, forward-thinking and inspirational expertise. And I think the 100 years celebration will enable us to tap into quite a lot of that in terms of connecting, seeing each other. As David said, some of us haven't seen each other in the flesh. I've never met David. We've only, we're only that high. Okay. What happens from there down? Haven't met each other yet, and that's quite a game changer, actually, because you have different conversations when you're not in the confines of a meeting for 30 minutes. So I think that chance to be face to face, to feel the energy and love that we have and we share as a community, driven by the same common passion, whether we're helping people in primary or we're helping older workers as they transition into retirement. And that's why the 100 years is important, and that's how it connects with strategy, because it is about the strategies for the next 5 years, but it's the platform for building for the next 100. So I hope that answers your question, Chris.
Yes, Carol, absolutely. Sorry, I was on mute and I was mouthing.
You're on mute.
Yes, it wouldn't be any sort of video call, would it, without some sort of mute-related instance. So yeah, there we go. No, absolutely, Carolyn. I think that is. That connectivity, as you said, bringing it beyond something that's connected to one individual, but thinking of it much more from the sector's perspective, and it all being interconnected, I know is something that you particularly are very passionate about, but all of us within the career development sector are trying to do more of. So, and then partly why this show exists. So, great to kind of hear that reflected in relation to the centenary celebrations. Sabiha, I know you're going to come in now, perhaps to interrogate what those celebrations might look like in a little bit more detail.
I do. Thank you for that, Chris. And speaking of interrogation, again, if you're watching live right now and you've got questions for our guests, please pop them in the feed. I know that they're ready. We prepared them. They know that people love to ask questions. And if you do watch on the replay as well, and you're thinking, shoot, I forgot, I didn't get a chance to ask. Please do still keep posting the questions, because one of the great things about this show is that we are able to kind of get these questions out there and get them to our guests as well, so that we can give you a retrospective sort of kind of answer. And speaking of the feed, I'm just looking at some of the comments that are coming through before I kind of come to the question. We've got here somebody saying, sorry, Facebook user, can't see the name. Michelle's article is really interesting to read, and it's fantastic that so much is being organised to celebrate 100 years of careers. So guys, Carolyn and David, you've definitely got fans there. So important. Another user is saying, so important to celebrate this. I've been a careers professional for 30 years. Okay, then, there we go. Anybody else making that mark? Is anybody else done 31, 35, 40 years, maybe even? If you're watching, let us know. And then we've got Alistair Sterling here just saying, good afternoon. I'm a registered career advisor. Pleased to be here. I'm part of the profession. So we're definitely getting all that love feeling going on, the vibe going on. 36. Oh, someone's just popped in the feed just now as I asked that question. Thank you, whoever you are. 36 years. So that's the one to be. So if anyone's got more than 36, we want to know. We want to hear about it. And so speaking of which, maybe you're watching this show for the very first time, or maybe you've watched the show a few times. Remember, hit that subscribe and that bell button on YouTube, or hit the follow buttons on Facebook and obviously LinkedIn. And if you're wondering, what are these guys talking about here today? What is the CDI? Or maybe you've been toying with the idea about joining the CDI, but for one reason or another, you've either procrastinated or you've kind of forgotten about it. Right now, if you are liking what you are hearing right now, if you are loving the energy of David and Carolyn, you've made him the CEO and the president, this is exactly what the CDI community is all about. And for less than, I say this all the time, I know, but it's so true, for less than the price of a Starbucks, and trust me, Starbucks is not cheap, for less than the price of a Starbucks, cappuccino, frappuccino, whatever your coffee taste bud is, you get so much abundance and so many wonderful and amazing ways and support as a career professional. And someone's just put me through the post. Someone's just put 39 years. I don't know who you are, but hello and welcome. Okay, so 39 is the number to win, to beat so far. And so for those of you who haven't read about the celebrations today, David, because there are people out there who haven't yet heard about the celebrations, David, I'm going to come to you first with this question. What is going to be happening? I know you've given a little bit of a teaser of what's going to be happening. What can people expect, David?
Yeah, we've got a few things going on. So aside from the articles in Career Matters and a number of other kind of activities throughout the year, just to kind of keep people engaged and interested, the highlight, the big beast, is the 18th of June at Bliss Hill Victorian Town, just outside Telford. It's a fantastic attraction in its own right. But we have exclusive access from 4:30 on the Saturday for the careers profession to come together and enjoy. So we get access to all the attractions normally on at Bliss Hill. Everyone I've spoken to who's been, I'm not from that area, but lots of the team are from around there, and they're taking their kids, or they were taken as kids. It's amazing. You get all these people, the actors dressed up as the policeman, the butcher, the candlestick maker, the sweet shop owner, the chemist, and they interact as if it's Victorian times. Really lovely venue, a good mix of lots of outdoors. So we're making it as safe as we can, because we hope it's going to be okay by then. But we're making it positive. And then all the usual attractions overlaid with careers-themed, careers-related exhibitions and activities. We're bringing in other partners to work with us on it, because I think it's important to say that we as a CDI are taking the lead on doing this. But this isn't a CDI celebration, it's a career celebration. It's a career development celebration. So we're talking to other organisations, we're getting them engaged, helping promote it, helping come along and show how careers have changed over 100 years. But just some of the little things we've got, which are really good, is as well as that exclusive access, 4:30 to 11-ish, when the pub closes on the Saturday, your ticket gets you access to all the Ironbridge Gorge museums that whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday, so you can make a weekend of it. We've got tickets for adults and kids under 5 go free, so you can bring the family along. You can meet all your careers colleagues. There's a sing-along in the pub once or twice in the afternoon, so you can get together with the policeman around the old Joanna. We've got a rock choir who were the backing singers on the final of Britain's Got Talent. And of course, we've got the UK Career Development Awards winners being announced throughout the day. So a chance to kind of not just look back at 100 years, but also celebrate, the winners and the best of this year.
Oh my God, David, that just sounds phenomenal. And I think one of the things that I'm loving about what is so different about this event that's coming up in June is the fact that it is a family themed event. And like you said, it's beyond sort of kind of the CDI. We're looking at the profession as a whole. And the fact that you've got both sort of kind of, this combination of fun sort of kind of work related activities, as well as sort of something for the family to do as well, and I'm sure people will welcome. Oh, and we've got questions coming in, but before I come to them, Carolyn, I just want to bring you in. Which is that, and Chris mentioned that, you are sort of the new president. And so it'd be interesting, I think, for members and non-members to hear about what are your plans for your term in office?
Okay, thank you for that. I did share some of those at the AGM for those who were there. So if you're at the AGM, apologies for the recap. For the rest of everybody else who wasn't there, I've got 3 particular pledges. And they all link back into the strategy, because there's no point in having the privilege of sitting in the president's shoes if you're going off and doing something different from what everybody else is doing. So there are 3 things that are particularly important to me. And one is acting as a voice for the profession. Not the sole voice. David obviously leads as the Chief Executive of the CDI, for the voice of the CDI. President is able to amplify, add, sit alongside. We can spread the load a little bit and get a little bit more coverage maybe, but actually there are 5,000 nearly voices in the CDI, and one of my things is to encourage every member to grasp the nettle and to start to promote the sector that we all know changes people's lives daily. So that first one is around voice, because the work we do is so important from an economic, social and personal individual perspective. The second one is around our governance. Now, governance isn't always one of those words that gets people terribly excited, but it is really, really important that governance is right to support the future direction of the Institute. So we've had conversations around chartership, as everybody knows, and that work is still ongoing. There's research pieces ongoing there that Nikki Moore is leading, and that'll come into the board for discussion and development as time goes on. But what's important is that we could have all sorts of different structures. The one we have may well be the right one, but if we don't take this moment at this point in time to look at it and go, is this the correct one for us moving forward in the light of all the other decisions we make, then we may be missing a trick. So governance is really important to make sure it's robust and that it's transparent. So in my president updates in Career Matters, you will see me updating on what's going on to make sure everybody knows what the board's doing, because we're not a separate being that has nothing to do with members. We're there to support members and the Institute grow. So that transparency is really important. So we've got voice, we've got governance, and the third one then is about being connected to members. Because if I'm sitting here by courtesy of members, that's the only reason I'm sitting in this seat. So if I'm not listening to members and hearing directly and being in touch with members, then I'm not doing my role properly, which is to represent them in the board as well as to chair the board meetings. So I've already popped in virtually to Scotland. I took Mark Owen with me from Wales to talk about Careers Wales work in Scotland, and that was a sort of first virtual tour, if you like. I popped in somewhat informally as president-elect into east of England and did some stuff there with Emma. And I'm open to any invitation from any of the regional members to come and just pop in and say, hello, how are you? Anything that anybody wants to share. I'm available through LinkedIn. I'm available on Twitter. You can email me. I'd love to hear. I might just give me a day or two to reply, just in case you also make a tomorrow. It might take me a day or two to reply, but I will come back. And if you've seen anything of me before, you'll see that I tend to pop up quite a lot in places and add in comments onto debate, and I'll raise things in debate as well. I'm not afraid to raise something for a sector that I care passionately about. And I think we all have that duty. So connected to members and encouraging them to speak, because there are 5,000 voices and David and I are but 2.
Well, and it's great to hear that kind of connectivity, Carolyn. I think members watching this will be really kind of heartened, not just to see both you and David here, but also to hear about that connectivity, not just kind of within, as we say, groups like this, but also across the home nations, and bringing together those different strands of the career development sector. On that note, just before we come on to our final question, we've had something come through in the chat, really around, I suppose, organisations outside of the CDI, are they going to be invited to the 100 Years event, which perhaps I'll kind of come back to you on, David. The question specifically talks about maybe past presidents of CDI iterations of those organisations. If they're no longer members, are they going to kind of have a way to be contacted and invited to the event as well?
Well, there are 2 very positive parts to the answer to that. So first of all, the event is open to anyone who works in and has worked in careers. So past presidents, council members, chief execs, of all the organisations are more than welcome, and not just the historical organisations that formed this professional body, but members who work across and have never been a member of anything. So absolutely. So that's the first part. The second part is we are also looking at a much smaller event, possibly in autumn, about looking potentially about bringing together some of those people who've played a role, kind of a president's session or something, and to share memories and bring those, and also to capture those. So we haven't finalized anything on that. We're looking at that at the moment. So we have the big event in Bliss Hill. That's for everyone. I have to stress, tickets are limited to 1,500. That's all we're allowed to take. So when tickets are open, get in early. But we're looking at doing something else later on where, for me, I think it'd be lovely if we could do something around capturing memories by having an event where we bring those kind of key people to and use those to create a bit more history to go in the archive.
That's great. And I mean, if you're thinking about, oh, goodness me, 1,500 tickets, got to get in there early. All the information about the 100 years celebration date is going to be in our show resources document. Check out all the information on there. It will let you know all about the next steps. Final kind of question, just before we come to a couple of key items I know you wanted to mention, David. Debbie's just coming in the chat to ask CDI Awards shortlist. We know that the awards will be announced themselves on the 18th of June on that 100 years celebration. When are we likely to see the shortlist of nominees? Do we have a bit of oversight of that already?
Yeah, the CDI board have been working feverishly on the nomination, on the shortlisting of the nominations, and they will be done by the end of this month, and they'll be going into judging led by members of the Professional Standards Committee and others. And so we'll be able to announce the shortlists next month.
That's great. Thanks, David. And leads quite nicely, I think, really, onto our sort of final questions before we wrap things up, which is around really how members can get involved. You've mentioned about that idea of looking back and also looking to the future. So if we've got kind of members watching this who are thinking, 18th of June, 100 years celebration event sounds fantastic. Are there any other ways that I can get involved in the centenary celebrations? Is there anything else that members should know, or any other activity that we should signpost them towards?
There is one particular activity we're really pleased about. I have to say the team have been very excited about this whole event because we've been able to have a bit of fun and think about what we'd like to do more creatively. Yes, we're looking back 100 years and obviously celebrating with the UK Career Development Awards now, but we thought it'd be nice to look forward 100 years. What will be the careers in 100 years' time? So we're going to be launching a competition for schools, for individual classes to put forward their career of 100 years as a kind of a recruitment poster, the old, your country needs you now type poster. Points for creativity, points for the idea behind it, and they will be judged. They'll probably be shortlisted beforehand, and then they'll be judged at the Bliss Hill event. So a winner will be announced there. But I think it's a fantastic way of getting the next generation involved, thinking about what the careers will be of the future and how things are going to change in 100 years, whilst we also look back at the 100 years we've had. And actually, just do you mind if I ask you a question? Can I ask you three a question? Because you
go for it. Yeah,
I'll do it very quickly. So I haven't got 1921, but 1911 census, the top 5 jobs. If I give you the 5, 4, 3, 2, see if you can guess what number 1 is.
Okay.
5 is people who push carts. 4 is farm workers. 3 is miners. 2 is textile workers. So number 1 is.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna say it's gonna be something super obscure that doesn't exist anymore now. Like, I don't know. Oh God, something to do with some technology that existed 100 years ago. But you mentioned the push cart. What do you guys got? Carolyn, Chris, what are you thinking? Where are you guys going?
Industrial revolution. But I'll let Carolyn come in first, and I'll steal her idea.
Factory worker. I'm thinking leave it. Oh, shop workers. I was just about to say, those of you that are watching, if you've got any ideas, any suggestions, pop them in the chat box. Let us know. We've had shop worker. I'm gonna ironmonger or something.
Come on, David, put us out of our misery.
If you want people to put answers in, I can tell you at the end if you want.
That's fine.
Okay,
so remember, remind us. We'll give people a chance. So those of you that are watching live right now, here's your opportunity. And no, you're not allowed to use Google to figure out the answer. Just FYI, because I know what you sneaky things are probably thinking. Yeah, look it up. No. Brain power. We need lantern lighters. John Morrison has said lantern lighters.
Yes,
I love it.
Gas lighters.
and they're coming in. I'm just conscious of the time that we're already hitting. As always, I knew this was going to be a tight squeeze. So Carolyn, if we bring you in finally, and then we can head on over to the news section for today, because I want to make sure that I get that bonus out. And I know Chris has got some phenomenal sort of updates from the wider sector as well. Carolyn, walk us through kind of final thoughts.
I was going to say, sorry, Carolyn. I was going to say, coming back to your point, just to directly connect that back to what you're saying about connectivity, I know you've got a couple of things that you wanted to mention specifically around, I guess, people getting involved more directly with what's happening around the career sector and feeding back across the home nation. So I just wanted to make sure we gave you a chance to include that if you weren't going to already.
Well, actually, what I was going to say was that, there is lots of good work going on. So actually, a shout out to the CDI team for having done some stunning work in Wales, which is for Welsh Government, producing a toolkit that is now being rolled out across the nation. If you want impact, there's impact right there from our sector. So that's hugely important. There's a lot of good work going on in Scotland as well. So that's the sort of things. And then there's also, Chris, you guys will know better than I, because I'm not located in England, but there is the opportunity to feed back and influence what's happening in England at the moment. I know you're going to cover that off in the show notes. And I just wanted to just do a little bit of a reflection there about the 100 years bit, because as I said in my AGM piece, presidential address, God, that sounds grand. When I spoke at the AGM, I talked about 1922 being important. It was the year my father was born. So if I then go back a generation, and that's why I'm interested in Bliss Hill as well, is my grandfather he served in the First World War. My son is in the army. And he actually was an accountant in the docks on Great Western Railway in Cardiff. My grandmother, his wife, my mother's mother, she was a nurse. So I'm really looking forward to going to the Bliss Hill doctors thing and seeing what that looked like. And I might actually bring her qualification certificate, which I've got hanging on the wall behind me here, just out of interest, just to see how that hasn't really changed. Certificates still are certificates. And then if I look at the other part of the family, my father's father died when my father was 14, so never met him. But he used to sell veterinary products. And his wife, my grandma, was a school cook. And my daughter works with horses and runs a restaurant. You could say spooky there, but my goodness, the influence of the generations through.
It's in the blood. It's in the DNA, as they say. It really is. So, Chris, we're wrapping up. As always, we've gone into overtime. Thank you, everybody. David, I think you're ready to reveal before we head into the news section. So we've had shopkeeper, lantern lighters, chimney sweep. Were any of those answers right, or was any of the suggestions? I said ironmonger, something to work with. Shoot, no, go on. Put us out of our misery.
You're on mute.
Oh, unmute.
It'll continue to be a mystery.
yeah. Only those who can lip read can actually find out. No, it's not textile worker. It's not ironmonger. It is female domestic servants was the biggest role in the country in 1911.
How interesting.
And it's interesting because people often think in the old days women didn't work, but actually working class women and middle class women did work, and it was the largest single occupation. There you go.
How funny. So women, women still running, building a nation, feeding a nation, keeping a nation moving. It's interesting to hear. So Chris, as we come in now today, obviously we have had a show where we've done all about sort of kind of CDI. I promise you that I would reveal a quick bonus to here. I'm going to whittle through, what we've got coming up in the CDI news. So as you've heard throughout the show today, save the date, join us on Bliss Hill on Saturday, the 18th of June. Tickets will soon be available to purchase. And as David mentioned, there's a limited amount that they are, that you can get access to make sure you don't miss out. Book yourselves one early. And David, can I just quickly ask, is there a particular discount if you're a CDI member of any kind? Is there any incentive? I'm just thinking in terms of those of us that are members.
Sorry, for the 100 years?
Yeah, for the Bliss Hill event.
No, we're discounting all the tickets. So effectively, we're subsidising the tickets.
Fantastic. So whether you're a member or not a member of the organisation, guess what? You're going to get a really affordable ticket price to come and join us live in person. And so here is the bonus that I was talking about. The fabulous Lynn Burgess has released today. So if you haven't already got this email, it should be dropping into your inbox very shortly. So please do look out for this. And it's all around difficult conversations. And we have been given exclusive access to Dr. Julia Yates. And if you are a fan of Julia Yates, as I am, you're going to love this bonus. We are being given access to a preprint chapter from the latest book that Dr. Julia Yates is coming. It's not even published, in fact, actually, that's going to be coming out, because otherwise it's not going to be available for months and it's very costly. And it's a really, really good exploration of talking to clients about uncomfortable subjects such as personal hygiene and appearance. Could you, should you, and if so, how far? When, and when someone doesn't want to talk to you, can we learn from the police? So that exclusive bonus is going to be dropped in your inbox today, so look out for that. And also as well, I'm going to be including that as well as some other additional information that the fabulous Lynn Burgess has given us access to in the show resources document. And then finally, this show has a new home on the CDI website. So if you haven't already checked it out, the link of it will be included in the resources document. Check it out. And also as well, thanks to Dan at the CDI team, he has now amalgamated and put all the shows since season 1 on the YouTube channel, so you can watch them all now. So please do subscribe and join. And then Chris, finally, over to you, the main headline news. What have we got this week?
Yes, yeah, great work from Dan Hope there. Big shout out to him for basically sorting out and organising our We Are Careers live. So yeah, deserves a real pat on the back for that. In terms of kind of the show resources document, we've got so much stuff in there. We're not going to go through all of it now, but do keep a lookout for that. We'll be dropping it on the Facebook of Community of Practice very, very shortly after the show finishes. And again, as kind of Sabiha often mentions, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, YouTube, you're not a CDI member yet, or you are, but you haven't joined the Facebook Community of Practice, keep a lookout for our social media posts and join if you can. You need to be a CDI member, but there's some absolutely fantastic, well, a hugely fantastic community of kind of supportive careers professionals on there, and of course access to all the show resources documents that we drop every week. So keep a lookout on there. Sabiha Notes will have access to all of the resources that we've mentioned today, about the 100-year celebration, reference to the CPD newsletter that's come out today, which Sabiha just mentioned, that Lynn Burgess has put together, and the items that I'm going to mention very, very briefly now. So do keep a lookout for that if you're on the Facebook Community of Practice. 3 kind of big sort of headlines for me this week. One is around the Baker Clause, which is definitely causing a bit of ruffling of feathers in the careers community. Lots of comments from the likes of Robert Halfon MP about the new amendment that's gone into the skills bill, about having additional encounters with training providers and employers as part of the Baker Clause amendment, and in terms of that sometimes being conflated with career guidance, and people like Janet College coming out very rightly and saying it is not the same thing and we need to invest more in careers guidance. So do take a look at the article from FE News. It's got comments from people across the sector, such as Kieran Arnold from Careers England, Tristram Hooley, for example, talking about balancing out things like the Baker Clause with investment in careers guidance. Really worth having a look at. We've also got resources for the upcoming National Careers Week, not long to go, a couple of weeks away now. Some fantastic printable resources on there for people who are planning activities for National Careers Week. And finally, an interesting development from the government in terms of the kind of flexible apprenticeship sort of offer that they've been promoting recently. Lots to kind of be sort of unpicked here, I think, and looked into, but a number of organisations, particularly those in areas like, for example, green jobs, film and TV industry, offering kind of shorter versions of apprenticeships like placements linked to particular skills shortage areas. And parcel, I guess, of the government's kind of wider skills for jobs plan. Interesting to see how that develops and how successful that might be. I think from kind of April onwards, those sort of opportunities are going to be developing. But if you've got kind of additional information about that, that's not in the article we've shared in the show resources doc, let us know. It's a really kind of, I suppose, sort of interesting new development. Whether it will have the impact that's intended, I guess, remains to be seen, but something worth sharing, I think, with members in the show resources document. So that very nicely brings us to the end of today's session. A massive...
Chris, I just want to correct, sorry, I just want to correct myself, because I know we've got too many Lyns in our organisation, so I just wanted to correct that. Okay, so Lynn Burgess is the lady that's sending out the pins, okay, and Dr. Lynn Barham is our fellow colleague who actually is sending out resources and access to Dr. Julia Yates's unpublished book. So I just wanted to kind of correct that, because I think I did confuse the two earlier, so just want to kind of correct that. What do we have coming up?
Never good to be Lynn correct, so I'm glad we've kind of addressed that. We've addressed that issue. So sorry, I've been waiting the whole session for that.
So waited that. Go on, Chris. That's what we got coming up in the next show.
For the show today, massive thank you to Carolyn and Dave who've given up their time to be here. Massive thank you, as always, Sabiha, for being a brilliant co-host. And for those of you watching at home, if you've enjoyed today, thanks for joining us. If you're watching on the recording, thanks for being here. We're going to be back in a fortnight's time on the 9th of March. We're going to be sharing all about that on social media. where we're going to be hearing from Badehi Ranavea at RCDP, all about the research that she's been doing into decolonising career guidance. Some really, really interesting stuff that came out of her master's research project. So do join us then. We'll be promoting it on social media. But until then, have a fantastic day, fantastic week, and we'll see you in a fortnight's time. Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks to Chris and Sabiha. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, yeah.